Welcome to episode 7 of the Digital Soapbox with me, Dan Ricardo, and behalf of Strategy Plus. Today we're going to talk about conversion rate optimization. This is how you could potentially increase the amount of leads or sales from your website by 2, 3, 5 times what you're getting at the moment without having to increase the amount of traffic through to your site using SEO, Google pay-per-click, social media advertising, all the rest of it. So without further ado, we're going to get straight into it. So this is the formula about the conversion rate. Okay, so you will have, let's just say you've got 10,000 visitors to your website and you've got 1,000 conversions, i.e. sales or downloads, whatever the conversions are on your website. And that means you've got a 10% conversion rate. Okay, so it's a relatively simple formula. And I've put that formula in a spreadsheet. A very simple spreadsheet, as you can see. So you've got 10,000 users, so you haven't increased the traffic. However, the conversion rate is 1% to begin with. Average sale is £100, and therefore you're making £100,000 revenue from the website. If you increase that conversion rate by 50% to 1.5%, so 1.5% is not massive, therefore you are making £150,000. And again, if you increase it by the same amount to 2%, then you're doubling the amount of revenue that you have just by simply increasing the conversion rate from 1% to 2%. So you can hopefully see the value in doing this rather than investing a shed load of money, time and effort into driving traffic through to your website, when in fact you can make some simple changes to your website to increase your revenue, which is far more profitable for you to do. And if you're wondering whether or not your existing conversion rate is good or bad, these are industry standard conversion rates, and they are basically split into traffic that come from search and traffic come from Google display at the bottom here. Okay, so each industry has a different average, and they vary from about 2% to 7% here. But these are not exactly massively relevant to you, purely because every website is different and every website have different goals and conversions. So your own website might have various different goals to convert. So it could be a sale, it could be a download, booking, what have you. So, but these are a fairly good guide so that you know that if your current conversion rate is less than 2%, you know you have got room for improvement. And if you're doing more than 7%, you know you're doing pretty well. But really, you should be using your own conversion rates for your various different goals on your website as your benchmark and look to improve. And make sure certainly that that conversion rate isn't dropping over time, which you can do if you don't do anything on your website in terms of improvement, purely because people's expectations change and also technology changes. So whether that's mobile devices, the browsers they're using, this can affect the usability of your website, and you've got to make sure that your website moves with the time. So there are various things that help the conversion rates on your website, and here are just a few reasons why people might or might not go through with a particular conversion on your website. I'm sure there's more reasons, but these are 7 basic ones, okay? So first and foremost, they don't know what it is that your product or service does, okay? So don't just assume everybody turns to your website and knows what it is, okay? So within a few seconds, you've got to basically explain what on earth it does, okay? And why they would need it. So it does something, but ultimately, how does it benefit them? Does it make them look better, lose fat, save time, save money, whatever it may be? You've got to get that across pretty quickly and succinctly. Again, how to convince them it will work. So you're saying all of this, but how do they believe it's actually going to work? So it's going to lose them 20% of their weight, let's just say. How on earth does that happen? So you've got to have some pretty convincing content on there. So whether that's a doctor that's telling them this, a person that they trust, whether or not you've got a case study, a sort of experiment, a test, reviews, whatever it may be, just to convince them it will actually work. Is it compatible for them? So they might think, well, so it might work for them on the screen, but not us or what have you. So you've got to make sure that you do have sort of case studies and testimonials and imagery of the kind of target audience that you're targeting, okay, so that they they believe that it is actually for them and not somebody else completely differently, especially if it's, I don't know, let's just say it's a business, a particular software that you're suggesting might increase their turnover or save them time. They might think that it's only for big businesses. It's not going to make a big difference to small businesses. And that's really down to you to make sure that you have case studies for both small and large businesses if you are trying to attract both of those. And also, a big one, is it too expensive or too cheap? So there's various different things that you can look at, particularly the design. So if you have an expensive product, make sure that the design does look that way. And also, if it's cheap, make sure the website doesn't really look too cheap, because then they think it's cheap for a good reason. Okay. So you can also do price comparisons on your website, and also see how you can explain why it is maybe a certain price. So if you've got a luxury product, you've got to go in depth in terms of, what are the products, what are the materials you're using, ingredients, the amount of time that's gone into it, how long is it going to last, and all the rest of it, just to make sure that people feel confident paying that little bit extra. Why should they trust you? So this is where things like Trustpilot come in, Google reviews, reviews from real people, testimonials, if they got any kind of accreditations, awards, SSL certificate on your domain name, all these kind of things will help people trust you. And no reason why to progress now. So a lot of people will think, yeah, this is pretty good, but I'll come back to it in a week's time and forget all about it, especially when it comes to e-commerce. There's a huge sort of exit rate when it comes to people going to the checkout page. They put loads in the basket. It's about time to get their card out, and they have second thoughts and then they leave. E-commerce, webmasters and owners really hate to see people leaving the checkout when they've gone through all this hassle of putting things in there. But that's why a lot of businesses will have sort of time limited sales on there. People will have the level of stock. They'll say it's low on stock, even though it might not be. Who knows? And obviously that goes with hotels, airlines, and all the rest of it, with seats and rooms, and making sure that you might miss out. And that is a big driver for people to go through with a particular action, because they think they might lose out. So those are reasons why people might or might not go through with a particular conversion on your website. And you've got to basically track the conversion rate by using Google Analytics. And there are plenty of videos on YouTube on how to set up these goals on your website. So you might, as I say, have a goal for sales, downloads, bookings, and all the rest of it. And you can select the different sale conversions from this drop down here, and they'll appear here with the conversion rate, the number of them completed, and also the value if they do have a value attached to them. And also you'll see that you'll have a different conversion rate based on where the traffic is coming from. So you'll probably see a higher conversion rate in places where people have searched for it with their sort of buyer intent, rather than say social, where people are just having a sort of a gander and they weren't really looking for it in the first place. And then we need to do A/B testing. Okay, so once you've decided, right, I need to make changes to my page to improve the conversion rate, I need to test it. Really, there's no point just assuming things and making loads of changes and you don't know what works. So you need to create. You have the existing page on your website, and then you create the test page, and then you drive the same amount of traffic from the same place at the same rough times to see what the conversion rate is. So it's a fair test. And this video here, by Empirical 360 in YouTube, I'll share the link in the description, how to A/B test landing pages in Google AdWords. We'll explain very simply in 3 minutes how to drive traffic through to these pages to make sure that you can carry out an A/B test effectively. I'll also send or attach a link in the description on how to go about creating A/B tests on your website. And the A/B test will probably initially test all the things in common sense. You can see from the page and have a look at your competitors. Right, we can improve it by improving, say, the search facility on here because it's pretty poor, or making sure that the price is above the fold, making sure the price is clear, making sure the buy now button is clear, making sure that we have, maybe PayPal Checkout Express so that people can check out much quicker and they don't have to fill out all their details. Whether or not we should have our USPs, free delivery, nice and clear. Maybe we should have a live chat. All these kind of things are fairly, common sense. You implement them, incremental changes. you make sure that they do improve the conversion rate based on driving traffic from AdWords, and then you implement the changes, go live with those, do the second lot of changes, etc. You might then run out of ideas of how to improve it, and that's where something like Hotjar comes in. Hotjar will run different tests. They'll show you heat maps on a particular page to see what people are clicking on most. They can get you feedback from certain places, from certain users. You can do session recording to make sure that you can see where the mouse is going and understand how people are actually using the page and seeing whether it might actually coming unstuck. So Hotjar, I would suggest, after you're a little bit stuck in what you should be testing, they've got a huge amount of different functionality on there, and the pricing is relatively cost effective, maybe $100 per month. Okay, so once you've made the changes, you can put it into a calculator like this, like Empirical 360, where you put the amount of visitors through to your original page, through to the test page, the amount of conversions. This will show you obviously the conversion rate of each, how that has increased, and what is the certainty of that test. So that really depends on the amount of people going through to the page. You know, if you've got 1,000 people going through to those pages, that's more certain than if you had 20 people go through to that stage. Okay, so I hope this makes perfect sense to you. If you do need more help or have any questions, then do get in touch. And hopefully this will really double your turnover in no time at all. And apologies for any kind of sound in the background. We are having works on the building. Okay, thanks a lot, and we'll see you soon.